So teach your kids some manners and to have some heart and soul. Without that, your kid may well turn into an a-hole.
I know. It's just so funny. Welcome back to the Running Wine Mom podcast. I'm your host, Samantha Cieslinski, aka the Running Wine Mom. Today we have Danielle Frank, former Hollywood publicist turned wine and spirits storyteller, author of A Wine Lover's Guide to Parenting, and a strategist at Moët Hennessy. We will talk about how Hollywood shaped her approach to luxury brands, why wine is the perfect lens for parenting wisdom, the rituals every parent should steal, and the funny, tender stories behind the book. So without further ado, let's welcome Danielle. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on your fabulous podcast.
Yes. When I got the email from you, I was like, excuse me, a wine lover's guide to parenting? Like, is that me? Nothing could be more perfect. So thank you for sharing it. I'm excited to
Yeah,
talk about it.
it's going to be a fun time.
Yeah. Before we get into the book, to start each episode, we have our wine, and win of the week segment. That is where we share our favorite bottle of wine, vent about something that's been bothering us, and celebrate our recent victories. So grab a glass, take a deep breath, and let's get started. So Danielle, what is your drinking wine of the week?
Well, and this is going to sound, this is not my everyday life, people. So don't think of this, but I literally just got back from a trip in Spain with my best friend to celebrate her 50th birthday. So I'm going to say that
Mm.
my wine of the week was this bottle that we got in Rioja. We stayed at this amazing Frank Gehry designed hotel called the Marquise de Riscal, and they have a winery, and we had the most delicious wine there. It was just a whole experience of it all. So I'm going to say the Marquise de Riscal Reserva from Rioja 2021. It's just evoking memories of my trip that I just got back off of. And that leads me into my wine of the week is that I just came off holiday in Greece and Spain, and now it's back to reality, back to work. So I'm gonna whine a little bit about that. But
It's perfectly fine too, because like post vacay depression, you just are like off for a couple days. You're like, what? I was just in this like beautiful place and now I'm just back to grinding on work.
yeah, those vacation blues is a thing. But a win, and again, this is gonna sound like I lead like the most glamorous life, but it just so happens that it's like this is like coming after one after the other. But I just booked a trip to London because I just got invited to the Royal Ascot event.
Ooh.
So that's a win because now I have another trip to look forward to to get me
Oh
out of
my
my
gosh.
post-vacation slump.
And when is that going to be?
That is in June.
Okay, how exciting.
Yeah.
That seems super exciting. So, I always like to ask my guests, what is one significant challenge you've successfully navigated shaping your journey to where you are today?
I think for me, it hasn't been just one significant challenge. I mean, my life has been sort of rooted in transformation. Uprooted my life from New York to LA. I did a major career pivot from the entertainment industry to industry. I had a life pivot, breaking up with my fiance because I realized that the life I thought I was going to happen, including the path to motherhood, he was not interested in. He said he wanted kids, and then he didn't want more kids.
Mm.
So my whole life is sort of rooted in transformation. And that's what I love being on these podcasts and talking about and shining a light on is embracing these pivots because I've learned it can really lead you onto a new path that maybe you were meant to be on all along.
And I think it's so scary for so many people who are maybe like comfortable and doing well in their positions that they are to kind of go like, we'll talk about it, but going from, something in, you went to two totally different kind of paths, and to hear that there's happiness on both of those paths is something that I think people don't realize that that can happen. So I'm excited to talk about that with you. But before we do, we talk a little fitness. What's your favorite way to stay active?
I always need to be active. I do Pilates, I do Barry's boot camp,
Mm-hmm.
and I do boxing.
Okay.
So I rotate
uh,
between the three.
yeah, I was gonna say, which is your favorite of the three? Or you like all of them?
Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, the berries, I don't like, I'm getting old and I never liked running. So they do like predominantly lift classes.
Right.
I do those instead of, like, the half run, half lift, and as
Mhm.
you get older, I'm turning 52 in 2 weeks. Us ladies, we need to lift more, like, for our bone
Yes.
density and all that, so I've been
So important.
enjoying the lift classes, like, certain days. I like back and arms. I don't like doing the legs, but yeah, so I like that, and I've really been loving my Pilates reformer classes.
I love Pilates Reform so much. It's like the
Yeah.
hardest but best thing. And how do you think maintaining your fitness routine aligns with your mental health?
I think they go hand in hand. I mean, when I don't work out, it's really working out your body really exercises my mind. It's
Mhm.
just you not only do you feel good physically, but that
Mhm.
physical, the physicality of like working my body really works my brain, and it's like
Yeah.
I need it. It's like a drug, I mean, even on vacation for 2 weeks, like, I don't work out when I'm traveling on vacation. It's just I'm there on vacation, I'm not gonna pack sneakers, and I'm there to enjoy. One of the things I love, like, about Spain or Europe is, like, you walk everywhere. So for me, that's
Everywhere.
the same thing. It's like just moving your body.
Mhm.
Moving your body really moves my brain.
I love that. All right, well, let's get into you. You have your book. I have it right here, A Wine Lover's Guide to Parenting. It reads like a bedtime story for the exhausted adults, which I thought was so fun. It's great. It's an awesome, clever concept, but underneath there is real perspective in it. What inspired you to write a parenting book as someone who you weren't a mom when you wrote the book?
Yeah, and I'm a dog mom, so Bert, cover your ears. Didn't say I'm not a mom. No, I'm not a mom. As I said, the path to motherhood sadly didn't happen for me, but the nurturing doesn't go away. And I was a
No,
bonus mom to my ex's kids for many, many years. I'm an aunt to my niece and nephew, but I am Aunt Danielle to many, many of my friends' kids.
I love
So,
that.
as that unofficial auntie, I sort of get the best seat in the house, right? I get to witness the chaos, the triumphs, and the tantrums, but I get to do it with a glass of wine and no carpool duty. And I don't have
Yeah,
to pay for
seriously.
college. But, from the sidelines, I can cheer, laugh, and it gives me sort of a lighter lens to see parenthood with a
Mhm.
humor and compassion. And sometimes I can see, it gives me the lens to see it because sometimes when parents are so deep in it, it's hard to see just the humor in it all, and
Right.
I see it with fresh eyes. And, as I said, sometimes parents are a little too deep into it. And I've listened to parents trade war stories like battle hardened soldiers on the field. And sometimes when you're in the trenches, it's not as easy to see that you can turn grape juice into wine. And coupled with my years of working in the wine and spirits industry for over 22 years, it was easy for me to take a step back and see the fun parallels to it all.
Yeah. And I love that because I am in the trenches with almost 4-year-old and a 5-year-old. Sometimes you do. You have to like step back and you're like, is this really a big deal in the grand scheme of, let's just relax. And that is why I like my wine because I'm much more relaxed with that.
Absolutely. And I also say, you don't need to be a parent to know good behavior in human beings,
Right.
right? Like all the
Mm-hmm.
lessons that you've seen, it's basic common, behaviors and decency, right? Teaching kids manners, teaching kid, to letting them breathe, to be worldly, to be open-minded. Like all these things are just basic behavior. So I'm not coming at it from a place of, I'm an expert or I've studied, I'm a clinical
Right.
psychologist or anything like that. It's just from a place of, even though the path to motherhood didn't happen to me, for me, I'm still invested in wanting to see the next generation and the generation after
Mm-hmm.
that still being raised well because, we kind of need it right now.
So true.
Yeah.
Now, in addition to being an author, you started in film publicity at Miramax and you later pivoted into wine and spirits. Tell me about, tell the listeners about the pivot. What scared you? What thrilled you? And what from Hollywood changed your wine career forever?
Yeah. So, I started, as you said, at Miramax, and I thought I'd be in the entertainment industry forever.
Mm-hmm.
Something just I always wanted to do. Again, it's sort of that like life pivot thing. Like when you're younger, you think you know what you want to do. And it was great. I mean, I was in my 20s traveling the world, going to this Cannes Film Festival, Venice, Berlin, you know, uh, running around Europe as a 20 something year old living in New York City. And it was great. And then I
Fun.
decided to move to LA, and there were no studio jobs. So I worked for a personal PR firm, representing the talent directly. And part of me just knew that wasn't my journey, but I was ready to leave New York. I was ready to leave Miramax. So it just got me out here. And I just remember, this when I went into the company that I went to, it was also a very toxic environment. And I remember the first day I showed up, and like three of the publicists were in their office, like crying.
Oh.
And just personal PR is just, I don't know. It's not for me. There's no disrespect for those that do it, but I care more about my life than somebody else's life, and I don't want
Right.
to manage somebody else's life. And I just remember, like, in all my years at Miramax, 6 years or so, like, there was never, of course, there's days you're like, I don't feel like going to work. I'm a little hungover or whatever. Wish it was the weekend. There was never a day where I had that like pit in my stomach. And when I was working at this PR
Mm,
firm, in 3 months, there were days that I was like, this is the worst feeling. I don't
right.
want to go in the office. And that was sort of eye-opening for me. What a horrible feeling this is to have. We spend most of our time at work. What an awful feeling this is to like have that angst in your gut, in your stomach. And some of that comes with naivety. I was like 29 years old, so I didn't have responsibilities. I didn't have a house. I didn't have anything. So there was a little naivety to just quit without having another job.
Mhm.
And I fell into this role in wine and spirits. I thought it'd be temporary, and here I am 22 years later,
Love that.
even though I'm only 21. I know it's wild. But yeah, um, and then I realized that sometimes the most empowering decision is acknowledging that the job, the relationship, that's also why I felt empowered to break up with my fiance when I realized how unhappy I was in the relationship. So sometimes
Mhm.
acknowledging the job, relationship, or version of the life that you are clinging to is costing you peace. That was really defining for me. And, when we pause long enough to listen to those pivots can become invitations and, not endings. And it can lead us to work and to lives that certainly for me feels more aligned, honest, and fulfilling for sure.
Yeah. I feel like I'll be 40 in a couple months, and I feel like a lot of people my age right now, including myself, are like at this like pivot stage where it's like you've maybe been in your job or position for 15 plus years, and then you're like, all right, I want to do something else. And it's scary to think about, but I feel like everyone that I talk to who's like made the leap is like, I'm so much happier on the other side of things, which is like pretty nice to hear. I love that.
I mean, I've just always been a proponent of like, we have one life to live.
Mhm.
It's like, I want to do with it. I want to do everything and anything that I possibly can within legal limits.
Right.
And because, I just want this to be the happiest life, and of course it's easier said than done, right? Like it's
Right.
not so easy to quit a job and just get another job, but you
Mhm.
also don't know until you try and put yourself out there. And,
Yeah.
no one's
So
saying you have
true.
to quit and, but start exploring the things that you want to do. Start exploring the things that make you happy because, yeah, we don't live an infinite life. So might as well do
Yeah.
what you can.
I love that. And you, speaking of living great lives, have lived inside worlds most people only see on screens. Hollywood, luxury brands, elite events. What's something about that world that would genuinely surprise a lot of the moms listening right now who are, right past bedtime or living in not the luxury world at the moment?
Yeah, what might surprise people most is how normal all is behind the scenes. The glamour is real, but it's fleeting. And,
Mhm.
most of the times it's long hours, it's logistics, it's problem solving. So it's sort of the same emotional dynamics that moms are dealing with all the time, right? Ego,
Right.
insecurity, juggling priorities that exists at every level. And just with, Hollywood and the wine industry, it's all just dressed up in better lighting, that's all.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great and that does make it normalized that like your feelings at whatever you're doing right now in motherhood, people can be feeling those same feelings even though it's not the same experience in any walk of life, which is something I think we also forget as well.
Yeah, it's like the world of Instagram too, right? It's like everybody posts, like, what you want 'em to see, and, that's why I mean, I know people get enamored with, like, Hollywood, and of course, it's like you see people on the big screen, but, I always say, like, they're people just like every one of us, like,
Mhm.
they eat like we do. They, they go to the bathroom like we do. And sometimes like, I think we get so enamored with who we think what they are and who we want them to be or a character that they played. But,
Mhm.
some are nice, some aren't nice. Just like people on the street, just
Right.
like friends and all that. They're human beings and it doesn't make them better than any one of us. That's for sure.
Yeah. I love that. Can you walk us through a red carpet memory that maybe shaped how you communicate with people and tell me whether that same approach would work when you're selling a bottle of champagne to a five-star hotel?
I can't recall like a particular red carpet moment. I would just say, like, generally the overall industry, right? It's all about storytelling. That's
Mhm.
everything. It's about bringing someone into the story, into the experience, romanticizing the moment. And that's what I've used, in all aspects of my life. And that's what I carried over into the wine and spirits industry. It's the same thing. I'm selling a brand, I'm selling a story, I'm selling the history, the heritage of Madame Clicquot, how she was, technically the first female entrepreneur and taking over her husband's winery when he passed, which was unheard of, and how she, transformed the wine industry, creating the first rose. All these things, it's all about creating the story, and then all about
Yeah.
creating romanticism of like, what the wine does for you, and even for the consumer, it should doesn't have to be jarring. It's about evoking emotion. Where were you when you
Mhm.
first enjoyed your glass of wine, or the memory you have of having your first sip of Moet and Chandon or Dom Perignon? And yeah, it's all about storytelling, which I love. Translates into why I love writing as well.
Yeah, I know, and as I'm like, "You are really good at storytelling," because I'm thinking
Thank
of
you.
all of these things as I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I love that that's, like, woman-based," and I can remember my first glass of, um, I love all of that, that's really cool, and I need to get better at doing that, I feel like, myself, as a side note, but,
You're a great storyteller. You have this great podcast.
thank you. I was thinking though, I was like, I just like talking to different people. I'm like, putting it together a lot of times, I feel like I stumble with my wording of what I actually do in this space. And I'm like, so many people can story tell so much better than I can, I feel like, when having a conversation. And, that was just kind of the perfect example. I'm like, I wish I was good at that. But
No, you're great at it, and you know what? That's the beauty I love about podcasts. I've been doing so many with, like,
yeah,
promoting this book, and this has been my favorite, medium because, I mean, as a listener, I love podcasts because it's all organic conversation. It's
right.
great. It's 2 people talking. That's what I like to hear,
Yeah.
because perfect. So nobody's a perfect storyteller, that's for sure.
I know. I'm like, it's just a structured conversation for podcasting when people get nervous coming on. I'm like, it's all good. It's just me having the questions that have a certain topic, but I love to talk. So I'm good with asking all the questions. But back to you talking. Your book uses 11 playful lessons. How do you choose which wine terms to pair with which parenting truths and pairing that surprised you when it clicked, which was something that I thought was so cool, the wine terms that were paired with the parenting truths. How did you pick those?
Yeah, so well, it all started, I was watching my niece and nephew. This was about 14 years ago I wrote this book. As you can
Mhm.
imagine, it's hard to, bring your baby to fruition. Um, and I was watching my niece and nephew, and they were young at the time. I mean, now they're in college,
Oh
and
my
they were great
gosh.
kids, but of course, every kid has the propensity to wine. And
Mhm.
I was like, Aunt Danielle drinks wine. She doesn't listen to wine. And that's when the idea first came to me. So, and right at the same
Oh
time
my
as
god, I love
well,
that.
a book came out by Adam Manzak called Go the F to Sleep. I'm sure you're familiar with it.
Yes, yes, yes.
It sort of opened this window to this new genre of adult children's book. And
Mhm.
so I love that because I love to rhyme. And then I just sort of had the wheels started turning and I had this idea of like, oh, wouldn't it be great, especially somebody in the wine and spirits industry. I love making wine knowledge accessible and easy. Learning about wine shouldn't be jarring. It shouldn't be,
Mhm.
daunting. I want it to be fun and easy. And so I started to think about, how it could apply to
Mhm.
human behavior, talking about parenting. Every time I use a wine terminology, it gives the definition. So, yeah, I started thinking about it sort of went hand in hand, right? Started thinking about what behaviors do you wanna talk about, right? Like teaching kids manners, letting kids breathe, but then I started thinking about wine terms that I could use as well. Also started
Right.
thinking about wine terms that rhyme well, right? You don't see me using in the book at all the word oenology, which is the study of, because there's not a lot of stuff that rhymes with oenology. But yeah, so I just started thinking about that. But I think like, pairing that surprised me that clicked and, is the plan where it's like, I'll probably read this chapter later on is the one about you don't want your kids to ferment. So I really just started to think about like the fermentation process is when you turn sugar into alcohol. Well, sugar is something
Mhm.
sweet. Alcohol is something, we think of as harsh and biting. So I just did sort of that play on words and, oh, that can work with like, you don't want your kids turning from something sweet into ones that are harsh and biting because they don't have manners. So,
Right.
I started having fun with that and with like, creative license on how we bridge those gaps.
Yeah. And I love how you make it humorous and it can be a pressure valve, but when does joking about parenting and drinking kind of risk trivializing the real struggles? Like how did you keep the tone respectful while staying funny?
I think humor works when it is a release, when it releases pressure, not when it
Mhm.
dismisses it. I think the line is whether the humor makes someone feel seen. And that's always been my goal, right?
Mhm.
As I said, the auntie and the bonus mom, I want those around me to be seen because I am invested in those kids' lives that I'm involved with. I'm invested in their well-being as well. So,
Mhm.
this sort of was my homage to them and then to everybody else that to tell parents, I see you, I applaud you. Parenting is already heavy, so the goal isn't to trivialize it. It's to give people sort of a moment to exhale inside of it and just have a little levity with it.
Yes, we all could use some humor in our life. So I do.
Absolutely.
It was like I was cracking up at the word. I was like, wow, I never thought of it this way or that way. And I'll have you read a little bit of it in a bit. But so one thing that I love researching my guests that are coming on and something that I just like was like, oh my gosh, she worked at the Moët Hennessy. It sounds like such a dream. But what does the actual day to day look like for you?
Yeah, no, it is. I still work there. I'm coming on 12 years with them. It is a dream. I feel so lucky. Like I was with Bacardi USA for 10 years. I've been with coming celebrating my 12-year anniversary next month with Moët Hennessy. So blessed to work for a fantastic company representing great brands. But yes, I've had people ask me like, when I was at Bacardi, do you drink Bacardi or Grey Goose all day? Or, do you drink
Yeah.
wine all day now or champagne? No, we don't. It's a job like anything else. I wish I was getting paid just to sit around and drink some
Yeah.
but no, I oversee our resort sub channel. So I work with all the hotels at the corporate level. So Four Seasons
Okay.
corporate, Marriott corporate, Hyatt, Hilton, etc. So yeah, it's a lot of, these days, on Zoom calls, doing presentations, presenting in person to RFPs, business review, forecasting. Yeah. So a lot of the regular office stuff that is required for a day job. Less drinking, more PowerPoints and Zooming.
Well, but you still get the nice, maybe bubbly every once in a while, I'm sure,
Yes, yes.
which is awesome. I know it's such a it's when I had my kids, of course I got a bottle of Moet, like that was for both of them. It's such a celebratory brand, I feel like, really well known for that, which I just love that. So, that's really cool that you've been with them for so long and that it's nice to hear that like it's with good people that are working there, which is cool.
It's a great company. I'm very fortunate. Really, really happy there.
Yeah. So how does brand storytelling for champagne or cognac kind of compare to telling a story of a family or a child's messy afternoon?
If you think about it, I mean, at the core, it's actually the same job, right? Whether you're
Mhm.
telling the story of a champagne house or a chaotic afternoon with a toddler, as I said, storytelling is about evoking emotion. So you're shaping emotion, you're shaping memory, you're shaping
Right.
meaning. I mean, I think the difference is, luxury brands, right? We edit for perfection. Fam Family life, though, it's more meaningful because it's unedited. All those unedited moments, and that's what it's all about. But at the core, it's about, shaping the emotion and the story for sure.
And for the moms listening who maybe feel like wine is their only break, what's your take on that culture? Do you think it's healthy, misunderstood? Do you think it's somewhere in between?
I mean, I certainly think it's healthy. I think somewhere in between. I think it's
Mhm.
understandable, right? Moms are carrying a huge mental and emotional load, and they're looking for a moment to decompress. But obviously, it can't be the whole toolkit.
Yeah,
And that just goes for anybody, right? Whether, stressed about anything, real self care is about having multiple ways to reset through
so true.
connection, through boundaries, through alone time, through laughter, not just one go to at the end of the day. But you can't beat a nice glass of wine, that's for sure.
No. And something about the wine world that's pretty cool is that it has so many rituals behind it. Do you have a ritual that you secretly think every parent should borrow and maybe one that you think that they could leave behind?
Well, I think borrowing, not just every parent can use. I think even I apply this in my daily life, right? When like somebody sends a text I don't like or
Mhm.
an email and I'm about to fire something off, all about keeping the pause, the moment
Mm,
before you take that first step, right? Where you actually stop, you may breathe the wine. Parents rarely give themselves that pause. So I
mhm.
think just giving yourself that pause is certainly a ritual worth holding on to. I think what I'd leave behind is all the rules, right? I mean, take a
So
wine
many.
and we say in wine too, like, oh, it's supposed to be this glass or the right way or the quote unquote proper way to do it.
Mhm.
You know what? Do what makes you feel good. There's enough pressure without turning relaxation into another thing to get right. Even when I go to dinner with my friends and, because I work in the wine industry, they hand me the wine list. I'm like, no, I'm not in, I mean, yes, I work in the wine industry, but it's all subjective. What I like, you may
Yeah.
not like. There's not one wrong wine. Like, I may like a heavy Cabernet and you may want a
Mhm.
lighter one with your like, it's all what works for you. We all have different palates. We all, like I said, it evokes certain emotions and memories and, we all enjoy different things. So throw
Yeah.
out the rule book.
And I just I've been up in New York City a lot the last couple of months, and one of the events that I went to was this app it's called Vino Perte, and it's so funny that you're talking about, the wine list, and everybody has different stuff, and basically it's this app you download, and everybody you would put in what you like, I would put in what I like, and I can scan it, and like it would analyze which wine that I personally would like to get a glass of wine of or a bottle of. And then like, it would do a different one for you if you liked cab and I liked, Pinot Noir. And it's really cool. I've been using it a lot, especially to buy bottles. I was like, I did not think I was gonna like this as much as I
Yeah,
did, but it
that's fantastic. Does it like if you put in like something you like, does it make other recommendations of like if you like this, you'll might like this?
yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's
once
great.
you start using it, it starts to like know who like know about you and like you'll put like yes, I liked this wine, no, I didn't, and you can even filter it to like pricing for like under $20 or like 30 to $50. It's really cool. Yeah. It's really
Yeah, say
cool.
what you will, but I is an incredible thing for things like
My
this
gosh.
too, like just understanding you and helping like it's remarkable. There's some great applications with it and that's I mean that's fantastic
Yeah.
and it makes it approachable and it makes it fun and that's what it should be.
Yeah, and and that's what the creator of it was like, I didn't know anything about wine, and I was in, like, Italy in this beautiful little place, and I just had no idea if I was gonna order a good or bad like, I wanted a good glass of wine, but I didn't know which one to order,
Although in
and so
Europe,
I
I
made this
swear
app.
in Europe, I swear you can't get a bad glass of wine.
I know,
It's
yeah.
like $5. It's like cheaper than
Oh
getting a soda and it's like all
my gosh.
fantastic. Like anywhere in
I
France
know.
or Italy. Oh my God. I just
It's
want to move
awesome.
there.
I hear you, I know, and then meanwhile, I was like, "Happy hour, $15 for a glass in New York City." The other
Yes.
day, I'm like, "Okay." So if a child's tantrum were a wine fault, what would it be, and what's the best fix you found, parenting or wine, for getting past it?
A tantrum is like a corked wine. It's not that the whole thing is necessarily bad. It's just temporarily off, a little overwhelming. I think the fix in both cases is patience. You don't try to overpower it. You don't argue with it. Although it's a little easier if a wine bottle is corked, at least that you can throw it
Mhm.
away. You don't want to throw away your
Right.
kids, but just
Yes.
patience.
And so I kind of want to go to your career pivot one more time, but often that comes with imposter feelings. Did you ever feel out of place in the wine world after coming from PR? And how did you kind of navigate that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, through those pivots and also, as I said, first I made the career pivot, then the relationship, you start to build up your armor of like what you're
Mm-hmm.
taking away from learning about these pivots. And then, so I started to when I made the career pivot and saw that I landed on this new journey, this new path that maybe I was meant to be on all along, it certainly builds your confidence up, right? And so when I realized how unhappy I was in my relationship and that, my fiance didn't want more kids and this never was going to be a happy marriage, because I was had the confidence from the career pivot and saw how I landed back on my feet. It gave me the confidence to walk away from that relationship. And, so I've learned that embracing the change isn't failure. It's quite the opposite. It can lead
Right.
to discover a new journey, discover a new path that maybe you were meant to be on all along. And when you dive headfirst into that new path rather than wallow in the sadness of what can happen, if you embrace it, it's only gonna help propel you forward. I
Yeah.
say that there's no yellow brick one that leads you to Oz, right? There's lots of different paths along the way. So, when you
So
step off
true.
one path and onto another, try and embrace it because there's no going back and you have to cross that bridge to get over it. So, the only way to do that is to look ahead.
Mm-hmm. And what's your proudest micro win or big win from your time at either Bacardi or Moet or maybe a campaign, a relationship, or bold idea that kind of paid off?
Yeah, I think recently our new CEO came from Marriott, so he's like very hotel centric and
Mm-hmm.
focused. And since that's, my specialty leading that sub channel, I've been really engaged with him, which has been such a great learning experience as I created like a whole resort strategy, like a 5-year
Ooh,
plan. So that was really, yeah, it was really, I did that last year and we're embarking on that and the different steps. So it's exciting to be a part of creating a journey for part of the path for, with the company that you're at.
cool. So I'm going to go through a quick little fun round for you. I'll go through each one and you can tell me the answer and tell us why you're going to pick this wine for this reason. So, first, let's start with a rosé for a rainy school drop off.
Well, okay, I'm gonna try. I mean, I'm gonna be a little biased because obviously I work with great brands.
Yes.
So, I want to talk about my fabulous brands, and but
Yes.
also because honestly, I really believe in them. So,
They're good.
rosé for a rainy school drop off. So I represent two fabulous rosés, the House of Minuti and Chateau d'Esclans. Chateau d'Esclans everybody knows Whispering Angel, but I'm gonna
Yes.
say the rosé for a rainy school drop off would be Chateau d'Esclans The Beach. It's a little
Okay.
older and
Yeah.
at a the rainy day school drop off, you're gonna pretend like you're at the beach. So I would grab a
Yeah.
bottle of the beach rosé.
I like that one a lot. And that's the one that Whispering Angel makes, right? The beach.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
The
yeah.
beach is your baby younger sister, we call it.
Yes. Yes. That's what I'm like. I know you said Whispering, but yeah. Oh yeah, I love Whispering Angel. I love so much. And then the beach like in the summer I mean, I feel like I get it because it is a little lighter and it's great. I mean, the summer I get Whispering Angel too. Now I want some. How about a bold red for teenage negotiations?
Yeah, I mean, I think any red is, especially in those teenage years, a deep,
Mhm.
bold Cabernet for
Mhm.
sure. I would say we represent Joseph Phelps. They have a beautiful
Mm,
Joseph Phelps Cabernet. But yeah, a nice, rich, bold Cabernet is ripe for that moment for sure.
yeah. And how about a champagne for a surprise homework-free afternoon?
Well, you said it before about Moet. I mean, we are known, Moet is the brand of celebration.
It is.
Certainly, and champagne, I say, doesn't need to be for celebration, but
Yeah.
champagne is bubbles and sunshine in a bottle. It could brighten your day even on a bad day, but certainly Moet and Chandon, the house of celebration for a homework free day for sure.
Those are perfect. And now I need some bubbles as well. I'll do them all. But so can you share with us your favorite chapter or passage from your book? Because I just feel as though, like I said, I was laughing at this when not at, I was just laughing through it, reading it. It was just so fun. And I loved the way that it's set up. And I think everybody needs to hear
Thank you. So, well, choosing your favorite chapter is like choosing your favorite child.
it.
But I will read I love the chapter you don't want your kids to ferment. As I mentioned
Yes.
before, fermentation is when you turn sugar into alcohol.
Yes.
So you sugar something sweet, alcohol is harsh and biting. You don't want your kid turning from sweet to harsh and biting because they don't have manners. Okay, so and for the listeners, every time I use wine terminology, it gives the definition at the bottom. So, manners, manners, manners are the key to it all. These lessons need to start even when they're small. Teach them this from day one before they start to crawl. You don't want your kid to be the sour grape in the bunch and turn into a spoiled brat that kids want to punch. When they start talking, make sure they know thank you and please, and to always say bless you when they hear someone sneeze. Please and thank you are an absolute must. Without that, your child's a total bust. There's nothing worse than a child who has behavior that is crude, because it'll continue as they're older and become someone who's rude. People don't take kindly to and aren't nice to those with attitude, because it's very off putting and puts others in a bad mood, oftentimes causing confrontation and leads to a nasty feud. Wanting to put a little bit of poison in your child's food. Is that really how you want your kids to be viewed? Wouldn't you prefer that there's someone who's wooed? Without manners, they'll ferment and turn into someone harsh and biting. They may turn into a kid who's rude, obnoxious, and always fighting. So teach your kids some manners and to have some heart and soul. Without that, your kid may well turn into an a-hole.
I know. It's just so funny. Like there's so many good ones. I was trying to find the one I thought it was so, the Sarah, Sarah, what will it be? What will it be? It's just like I love the connections to each one, the words and I just and I learned new words. I mean I love wine and I love learning about wine and I learned new for wine, which was so
Excellent.
it's
Then I
a
did
book for
my
me.
job.
So, if your book were a wine varietal or a champagne cuvee, what would it be? Vintage, tasting notes, and the label copy you'd write for it.
I mean, I think it would definitely be a champagne cuvee because that doesn't come from one perfect year, but from multiple
Yeah.
vintages blended together, right? And
Hmm.
I mean, this label says it all, right? It's the fine art of wine and wine management. That's the subheading. That's what it's
Yes,
all
so
about
true.
in life is managing our drinking wine and managing the wine we hear from the kids.
Hmm. I know. It's so yeah, I love it. My daughter, I mean, she's 5, but she likes to drink out of wine glasses, like her water in there. And the other day we have like electrolytes and she put like the red electrolytes in and she's like, oh look, I'm like mommy.
It's so cute. But you know what? I mean, I know for me, that was part of the story and the romanticism for me too is growing up. My parents were divorced. I'd see my dad on the weekends and he always liked to go to a nice dinner and my
Hmm.
stepmom and I started to learn about how they were enjoying like wine with the meal and so, it never became anything that was taboo for me. I
Hmm.
actually like when all my friends were out like, starting drinking early, because they'd give me a little taste here and there and
Right.
it was never anything taboo and it just became something about wanting to enjoy rather than to abuse or,
Right.
think of it as something, I mean, that's why you hear like Europeans, like, the French kids, like they're drinking wine at 10 or 11. I mean, maybe
I know.
maybe we don't want our kids drinking that young, but again, when it's something that's just part of the culture and it's not so taboo, then it becomes something
No.
of enjoyment that people don't generally want to abuse.
Yeah. My cousin lives in Rome, and he has for 25, almost 30 years, I guess. And his daughter, when they came for Christmas the one year, she was like, 13 or 14. And of course, we're Italian and the 7 fishes and the wine is flowing. And someone's like, oh, another bottle needs and to be open. And she just literally goes, unscrew, opens it like she's a pro. And I was like, oh my gosh, you open that bottle better than me.
I love that.
It's just like a normal thing there. And again, it's the same. It's not like it is where you're like, binge drinking it over there. It's just you're having it to enjoy it the way it's
Yeah,
supposed to be enjoyed.
it's a nice way of life.
Yes. Well, this conversation was awesome. I think this is going to bring it to the end of another episode of The Running Wine Mom. And as I mentioned in the beginning, I don't think there was a more perfect book for myself and my listeners. So thank you so much for creating this masterpiece for
Well,
everyone.
thank you so much, and thank you so much for having me on. This has been so fun. I'm glad you
Yes.
enjoyed the book. I hope your listeners enjoy it, and this has been super fun.
Awesome. As always, thank you so much for spending time with us today on The Running Wine Mom. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. You can follow me on Instagram at the running wine mom _ and Danielle, where can the listeners find you and your book?
My book is available on Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com. I have a website, DanielleFrankAuthor.com, and you can find me on Instagram at Create a Great Story.
Perfect. And I will link all of that. So thank you again. Thank you so much for joining us today. Remember, you are strong, you are capable, and you are all amazing. Until next time, keep running, keep sipping, keep embracing the joy of motherhood. Cheers, and I'll be back next Tuesday.